telling you we're live. And we're live. Hey everyone. Hope you're having an amazing Thursday or Friday if you're in Australia. We are thrilled today. I get to meet somebody I haven't met before. Jeffrey Morrison is from New Hampshire. And because Supconnect allows me to do these wonderful interviews every Thursday, I shouldn't say they're wonderful, but the people are that I get to talk to. And today we're going to focus on kind of fitness, outdoor world. We're talking to an outdoorsman, waterman, who is a science teacher, biology and environmental sciences by day, but outside of that and in summers, he's doing all kinds of things with stand-up paddleboarding. And so look forward to talking through lots of those things. Also writes an article for Stand Up Journal on the same, on fitness and all. So his Instagram handle is supsurf28. So while he does lots of types of stand-up paddleboarding, you might, what he probably loves the most. We'll find that out shortly. Again, thank you, Supconnect. Really love doing this. I can't believe it's been 2 years already. Jeffrey, wonderful to meet you.
Hi, Kristen. How are you?
I am doing great. Thanks so much for taking the time to do this. Guessing school's just out and barely, like, you probably had to rush home from the high school you teach.
First of all, I hope I can live up to that amazing introduction. Thank you very much. I really appreciate it.
Oh, come on. You're, I looked at your website, which we have to make sure people know to follow, as well as you on Instagram. You do all kinds of things in stand-up as well as the teaching. So that's extra amazing, I think, because sometimes we talk to people who full-time do just the paddling part of it. So you've been in the whole fitness world and training and sub-coaching for like 20 years.
Yes.
Not necessarily just stand-up, but all types. You're a strength and conditioning coach. But let's go back to kind of the water. So do you have a water background, maybe some other water sports?
I've been a lifelong water guy. My dad was a high school teacher in upstate New York, and he lifeguarded well up into his 30s. And so we were always on or around the water. Funny thing is, I have two other siblings that took to the water much earlier than I did. I was terrified of it when I was real young. And then something clicked and I sprouted gills, and I just loved the water ever since.
Wonderful. Love that continuity too. And we talk about safety a lot in this. So sometimes having a healthy fear of water is something people don't have sometimes when they come to the water, and need to have a little respect for water. As much as we love it and enjoy it and are addicted to it, that's an important aspect. So what was your so your dad was a lifeguard. So it was swimming and playing in the water mainly. Were there any sports involved there?
I did a little competitive swimming when I was younger, and then my dad was an avid outdoorsman, so he had us canoeing up on in the lakes of New Hampshire. I then took up kayaking and windsurfing. So basically anything that's on or in the water, I loved. So
sounds like you're an early adopter. So when did you first see and try stand-up paddleboarding?
So 2011, I'd been windsurfing and kayaking for well over 20 years. And I saw these things like, wow, what is this? This is pretty cool. And for me, it was one, a way to get on the water in another context. And two, it was a workout. And so my first paddling experience was up on Ossipee Lake in northern New Hampshire. And I just thought I would be there forever and a day. And a friend of mine convinced me to bring it to the ocean one day. I'm like, sure, I'll do that. Was at Higgins Beach in Scarborough, Maine, and I accidentally caught a wave. and I'll tell you, there's no looking back. That just captivated me like nothing else ever has. So
yeah. So you weren't a regular surfer. You started stand-up paddle surfing.
Yeah,
Straight into
that's right. Yep. I kind of did things back, but
no, it's not backwards. And I actually hear that more and more, but surfing's been around, of course, through ancient history. And we just have had this resurgence. There's also thought that stand-up paddling also has roots way back, but that's great to hear that we're expanding the world of surfing through stand-up also. So caught the surfing bug. You love that. Obviously your handle is supsurf28, and hopefully people will follow you, and you can see great pictures. That picture is spectacular. Tell me again who took that wonderful foggy picture that we used.
is an amazing photographer. His name is Jonathan Kohansky. And we all just there were several of us. There's a pretty hardcore group of winter surfers and subsurfers here in New Hampshire. And it was one of those days where at sunrise, there was just this amazing sea smoke. And I just happened to be at the right place at the right time. He's got an amazing eye. And he happened to catch a few really good shots that I just happened to be in. And yeah, we've gotten a ton of positive feedback on those shots. So
yeah, thank him again for sharing that. And that is just surreal. Oops, go ahead.
Yeah, I said, hopefully he may be watching. You know, he just has an amazing eye. He really does.
Yeah, fantastic. So subsurfing, but let's go back to that paddling. And you did realize right away it could be a workout. You were already strength and conditioning coach. And I love your website, which is outdoors, plural, fitcoach.com. The whole idea of sports specific programming, that as a all around, athletic person and outdoorsman and waterman, that you can make it specific to what people are looking to work on.
Exactly. You know, there are a million really good personal trainers and coaches out there, but they tend to be in the context of either body aesthetics or weight loss or maybe injury recovery. But there's really not a lot out there for, and I don't necessarily like the term weekend warrior, but somebody who's not, like Slater Trout or Candace Appleby that is full time and does this, but for people that go out 3-4 times a week. So, you can get a great, fitness coach or life coach, but they can't necessarily give you sports specific to make your paddling, surfing, foiling better. And that's kind of a niche that I thought that I could get into. And my girlfriend and I are pretty serious hikers. We do a variety of outdoor things, and there just seems to be a need for people to have something more specific to what they're doing.
Yeah. Especially it seems through this pandemic, especially people sometimes were finding outdoors for the first time, or they were expanding what they were doing in the outdoors. So maybe it was that their muscles were used to doing a certain activity, but now we're adding this because that's what's accessible. So have you seen kind of that, a resurgence, or people looking in new directions or doing multi-sport too?
Most definitely. When and I don't know about on the West Coast, but in the East Coast, most of the gyms and health clubs and fitness centers closed down for at least a 2 to 3 month period. And people were just crying for some type of exercise. And we saw way, way more people out on the trails, at the surf breaks, on the flat waters. And you realize that, maybe there's a slight, paradigm shift, and we don't just have to be in a gym to get fit, but we can be outside, enjoy the fresh air, the sunshine, maybe a little more camaraderie than you might have in the gym. Mm-hmm. And I think it's something that there's maybe kind of a new awakening, and that people are maybe rediscovering or discovering the outdoors for the first time.
Yeah, which is fantastic. I mean, that is definitely, it's been a really tough 2 years, but that's a positive side. By the way, as a teacher, thank you. I know you're definitely one of the professions that have been really hard hit by such pivoting you had to do. It's ridiculous.
I will be honest. We did have to do pivoting, but I think I've been teaching long enough that you kind of learn to take everything as it comes. When I look at people like healthcare professionals, nurses, first responders, they to me are the true heroes. That they've got to deal with conditions that I couldn't even imagine working in.
Well, agree, but also you're very humble, I can tell too. So we have the sport specific type of training, but we're going to focus more on the paddling. And I know you've written articles about body parts that are definitely of concern. I'd love to talk specifically about, shoulders, about building leg muscles, how much we use that over other paddlers as stand-up paddlers. And also, though, as strength and conditioning, maybe you have some tips and things about the direction that we might go, or I think you already mentioned sort of, some of the things we do are to make sure we just enjoy it more, but so that we don't get injured, but also to make us better at what we do. So I don't know, do you want to start maybe with shoulders? I think was the most recent one. And that's, I think I would say, mine have been okay, but I have more friends who've had issues with shoulders probably than any other body part.
Yeah, absolutely. And the one thing, Kristen, I want to really emphasize, and it's kind of cliche, but you know, you think of your body as the chain, it's only as strong as that weakest link. For some people, it may be shoulders, some people, it may be grip strength, it may be leg strength. So I've really tried to focus on every body part because it's not a singular thing, it's a sum of all parts. But you know, looking at shoulder, it's a small muscle group, but it's very complex and it has so many different jobs. You know, there are three parts to your shoulder and it moves in every plane of motion you can imagine. So on one hand, it's really great when they're strong and when they're in shape, but when you incur some kind of an injury, you realize how dependent you are on your shoulders for every other movement. They're kind of the connection, if you will, between your arms and your torso. And if they're not working at optimal efficiency, you're going to have some either drop off in your strength or paddling. So I think that the most important thing really to address, you know, and my mantra constantly is don't do any more than you can become, not trying to break, you know, Olympic or powerlifting records. We're just trying to build strength and endurance. And it's always best to start small and then work your way up slowly. I mean, that's an age-old adage, but it really is true.
Excellent advice. Yeah. Lower backs are another one too that I think a lot of people, again, I train and race. So we do a lot of bending and movement, and that seems to be a area. As you said, I love that. It's all connected, but that sometimes needs focus.
I think the other thing too, Kristen, people need to pay attention to because we're all built, you know, biomechanically very differently. What might fatigue you when you're paddling may not fatigue me, but something else may really impact me. A lot of it's whether it's your height, your leverage, you know, your paddling angles, all of those things. And I think it's really important for people when they're out doing whether it's a flat water paddle or a downwind or a foil or a sup surf session, pay attention to what fatigues you first, pay attention to what feels either the most fatigue or the sorest the next day. And that's probably a good area to begin your focus on.
So off water, doing things to make it better while you're on water.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Because it's really all about, you want to get up. There's no substitute for paddling if you want to be a better paddler. I mean, that's the bottom line. You've got to get out and paddle. But secondarily, if you can work on whatever muscles you feel that you're not incorporating, then your paddling game is just going to be, you know, certainly enhanced.
Absolutely. By the way, Michelle Kimball says hello. She knows both of us.
Full moon paddle boards, Wolfboro, New Hampshire. Yes.
Yep. Met her ages ago. Haven't seen her in a long time. Hi, Michelle. Thanks for listening in. Yeah. I'm going to jump back and forth a little bit because I want to know some more about you and your paddling. So I have never paddled. That's a goal of mine to get all over the place. I just love, I love travel in general, but now that this water addiction, I just want everywhere you see water, you want to paddle. So I haven't been, I mean, Maine looks amazing and New Hampshire, I haven't seen as many pictures of, but beautiful. What places though in the world have you gone outside of the Northeast?
You know,
or are there places you'd like to paddle or surf?
Okay, that list may take a whole different program. I've only paddled and sup surfed on the East Coast and primarily New England because, you know, people just don't think, especially New Hampshire, we have all of 17 miles of coastline. And I'm under dire bodily harm threats to give away any secret spots. But we have a really pretty hardcore year-round surf population. And then summertime, obviously that swells, pardon the pun. You know, places I'd like to go, Tammy, my girlfriend, and I were out in Colorado this past summer. And I would love to try the whitewater sup like David does. And that's something I want to do. And if anybody wants to sponsor me on a trip to go to Cloudbreak in Fiji, absolutely. So I don't think, you know, I think there may be a little bit of a West Coast bias, obviously, because that's where it all began. But there's some phenomenal surfing and paddling on the East Coast as well. So
great to hear. Well, sorry you can't give away your secret spots, but completely understand, I know. And that's amazing to me. Yeah, I'm a wimpy Southern California. So the fact that you do that all year round through the winter, I assume you have just the full hood and probably icicles for them.
Yeah, yeah, we do. But there's just something about it. If you love something enough, you'll get out and do it. And we have to adapt to whatever our circumstances are, and we do that. And if you go out, the sessions may be a little shorter, and there's a lot of hypothermic mumbling to each other in the parking lot as we're trying to get out of our wetsuits with trembling hands and frozen toes. But
My least favorite part of surfing is getting out of the wetsuit.
yeah, no, I think sometimes that's our favorites, just so we can sit in our cars and blast the heat for a little while.
That's true. I like your positive perspective. That's another way to look at it. So yeah, you definitely threw out quite a few different places that you might go sometime. And whitewater is a lot of fun. I haven't done a lot of it, but of course, I think we share, as most of the people I talk to, we'll take whatever we can, however we can enjoy the water to get on the water. And it's always fun to try something new, definitely. Right. So what would you say, you caught that wave. I mean, Mother Nature's energy of the wave is just amazing and never the same twice. So I share that love too. But what's your favorite thing about stand-up? Like when you first tried it and kind of got hooked, maybe even before the surfing, because that's a very specific thing.
I think for me, it's just being on the water it's one of those things that, like, trying to describe a color to somebody. If you know the feeling, and being out there, whether it's sunny, windy, beautiful, just being outside and on the water is such a special feeling. And then being able to, oh, by the way, incorporate maybe a workout, maybe see some incredible sights. It's just a amalgamation of really great things.
Very fun. So in the summer, when you aren't teaching full time, you work for or with, or maybe it's your company, Cinnamon Rainbow Surf. Tell me about that.
Rainbow Surf Company. It is not. It's owned by a guy named Dave Cropper, who anybody will tell you is the nicest guy in the surf industry, hands down. And as I was getting into supping and sup surfing, maybe 8 years ago, Dave runs all kinds of programs, and he was running sup demos, so people could come try out sups and see if they like them and maybe buy one or pass the word, whatever. And he was kind enough to let me start to volunteer to do these. And as I got more and more well-versed into it, he realized I kind of had a real passion for it. And he was very, very kind enough to bring me on board, and then had me start doing surf lessons. And we do what are called sup tours, where we go out for about an hour and a half. And we go, out through this little bay and up and down the New Hampshire coast. And it's a wonderful way to get people out on the water. And we do, kind of like a little clinic in the beginning, paddle efficiency, how to get on the board, what to do if you fall off, that kind of thing. So really a great way to spread the sup word out there. And, just to let people know, surf shops aren't necessarily just pro and surf centric, that there's stand up, that there's sup surfing, and now, foiling and winging are coming into it as well. And I have to tell you, it's the best surf shop on the planet. Apologies to every other one out there. But
so is that actually in New Hampshire, and what city is that in?
That's in Northampton, New Hampshire.
Northampton. Okay.
Cinnamon Rainbow Surf Company, lessons, we'll do usually lessons June through mid-September, sup tours, everything else. And then any kind of equipment you want, clothing, boards, leashes, wax, anything you need.
Good to know. Always good to know. We need to form a map out of all the good tips we've gotten from people from different places about where to go to get your stuff. So shout out of two good shops, Michelle, too, with Full Moon. Let's go back to those tips though. I'm ready to get some good information from you. Maybe how about getting started off water? Because a lot of people maybe haven't done any strength and conditioning training in their lives. Others, like you said, gyms shut down and had to like regroup that way. But if you're a paddler, what can you do off water? Maybe 3 to 5 exercises that might that would be favorites for yours that you think would be most useful for somebody just getting started and trying to do some off water prep.
Sure. To me, first and foremost, it's going to be core strengthening, because that's obviously it's your core, hence the name. But, strong core is going to give you balance. It's going to give you strength that will translate to both your upper and your lower body. So, first and foremost, whether it's going to be planks, and then you might superset those with flutter kicks or some type of abdominal crunch, something like that to me would be the very first thing to focus on. After that, I would focus on some type of leg strength, because I think people greatly underestimate how much we use our legs, whether it's a flat water paddle or foiling or sup surfing. So definitely leg strength, whether you're doing, you can do, wall ball squats, you can even do wall sits if you don't have any equipment. And if you have equipment, doing walking lunges, some type of squat is always, is the king of all leg exercises. Leg strength. And then for upper body, my focus would be more on back than arms. The novice will tend to pull with the arms, of course, but really it's the back that not only does the work, but is capable of much more work. So some type of either dumbbell or barbell rowing exercise, lat pull downs, if you can do, palm forward, chin ups, those are absolutely amazing too. And if you're more advanced, you can get into doing things like, deadlifts or, some type of kettlebell work. I would always advise, especially for a novice who's never been into the gym or never exercised, do yourself a favor, go to a gym and at least get some type of a fitness assessment, and hopefully the trainers there are good, just to get a basic introduction, because I'm a stickler for form, and if you're using proper form, it's only going to translate well. Conversely, if you're using poor form, you're going to set yourself up not only for injury, but you're going to have a lot of wasted motion, and it's not going to translate well to your paddling or your fitness game.
Oh, that's a really good way of looking at it, wasted motion. So how about the converse of that? Like, are there things to avoid both on and off the water that, like you said, the wasted motion, but there's also that repetitive motion that's dangerous maybe if you're doing it wrong?
Yeah, so I think the first thing really to avoid is, and again, goes back to biomechanics, if you're going to get out and sup or sup surf, get a lesson or have a little bit of a clinic with somebody. Proper paddling, as you know, if you're paddling properly, you're not going to tire yourself out as much. You're going to be more efficient. You're going to have better balance. So I think, either a lesson clinic is key. And the other thing too is know your abilities on and in the water. Even if you're wearing a PFD, if you're out in, terrible conditions, you're kind of in a bad place. Know the local area or wherever you're paddling or doing your thing. Know the break, know the water, know the wind and the weather. We've got some tricky winds out here, and there are times where you see people on a paddleboard, and 2 minutes later they're halfway out to the Isles of Shoals, which is 7 miles offshore, because we get a strong wind. And if you're a novice paddler and you don't know what to expect, that can be really a little scary and a little dangerous. So,
absolutely. Oh, great advice. Great advice. Thank you so much. So tell us more about New Hampshire and lakes. Are there rivers too? And then, of course, you have your 17 miles of coastline you told us about. So it sounds like some of everything for,
yes.
I'm from California, so it's a small state. At least I know it's not the smallest, but.
Yeah. Yeah. So, we're very fortunate in New Hampshire, not only to have the ocean, but we've got mountains, rivers, lakes. It's really, in my opinion, the best of everything. And there are innumerable lakes in the middle of the state, and it's called the Lakes region. There are some bigger ones. There's like Lake Wentworth, Lake Winnipesaukee, Ossipee Lake, where I spend most of my time, Newfound Lake. There's never more than a half-hour drive to somewhere to paddle. And even if you're dropping in a kayak or a stand-up paddleboard or a canoe, whatever there is, there's paddling within a 20-minute to half-hour radius, literally anywhere in the state.
Nice. That's very different than where I live. As much as California is thought of as water, Southern California is a desert, and I am near the Pacific Ocean, but we have some reservoirs, but not a lot of lakes and rivers in the southern part of our state. So that's what a neat thing to be 20 minutes away always from water you can paddle. So you had mentioned you'd like whitewater. Are there some rivers right in New Hampshire that did you kayak ever whitewater?
Yeah, there's the Swift and the Saco rivers, and even parts of the Merrimack River that especially in spring with the snow melt, will tend to run pretty wild. So there's definitely an opportunity. We haven't seen it much here. It tends to be more in the warm water states, or where there's more white waters. And I know David, and he's definitely the man when it comes to that. But there's ample opportunity, and I think what's nice about the rivers that we have here is they're lending themselves maybe to novice whitewater paddlers. We're not talking class 3 or 4, but class 1, maybe 2, which I think would be an ideal beginning situation for somebody who wants to get into whitewater sup.
Perfect. Yeah, you got to bring David or somebody out and get a class together, and you get yourself going there
Right.
on inflatable. And Michelle's even offering to that I could come visit, and she'll take us around everywhere, which I love. So health, fitness, nutrition, kind of all wrapped in. You do this with different sport-specific training. Do we have a lot of crossover with some of the other sports that you work with?
Yeah, there really is, especially obviously the water sports tend to translate more. If somebody's either a whitewater or flat water kayaker, they're basically going to be looking at the same type of programming that a stand-up paddler would use. Mm-hmm. Rock and ice climbing, those two are very, very parallel in terms of what you would do. We have some people that just want to get stronger for long hikes. We have a ton of mountains out here. The Appalachian Trail runs through New Hampshire, and sometimes people just want to get a little more fit for hiking, so they're not so sore the next day, or so they're not winded at the end of their climb. We've got there's just so many things out here to do. And
yeah, do you ever work with skiers, snowboarders? I always feel like you mentioned legs, and I preach that to my friends all the time, who like when they get tired out, especially our ocean. We have this Saturday a 5-mile ocean race.
Right.
And it's going to be bumpy probably. And they're going to, you're basically in a full squat if you're doing it right, I think. Knees over toes the whole time.
There's also quite a bit of obviously skiing, snowboarding, and a lot of backcountry where people are, actually skinning up and then skiing down. And that's probably the all-time quad burner. So, there are things out there for literally every type of outdoor activity. And again, it's, what is your focus? Obviously, someone who's going to be backcountry skiing is not going to be doing a program filled with bicep curls. They're going to be focusing more on their quads, hamstrings, glutes, and their core, just for that stability and that endurance to be able to, not only safely negotiate what they're doing, but to enjoy it more so they can stay out longer.
Yeah. This is maybe too basic a question, but I get different answers all the time about stretching before, stretching after. Where is it most important? I know for myself, this really, you talk about balance and strength, and you need your back and your core, but we tend to get pulled this way.
Right.
So I use my foam roller and stretch and put my arms back. That's one of the best stretches ever. And I find I get so tight through here. But when is the best time to stretch? And again, I know we all have different body types and different ages.
The research has shown that doing some type of dynamic stretching previous to your activity, which is movement stretching, mm-hmm. and then your static stretching and your foam rolling post-activity, that tends to be the way that most strength and conditioning coaches and physical therapists will go. And I think most personal trainers look at that the same way too. The days of the static stretch before you do something are pretty much by the wayside. And if you think about it, before your activity, if you're doing even, gentle windmills, a lot of people will put their paddle over and just do, gentle windmills, maybe some walking lunges. You're getting the blood flowing, you're activating your central nervous system to become active and to do things. So that's going to set you up to be, again, more efficient and reduce your risk of injury. If you've got blood flow going already, and let's say you've got to suddenly do a quick paddle or a quick bottom turn or a dyno if you're rock climbing, if you're warmed up, you're much less likely to injure yourself that way. And then the static stretching, especially foam rolling, is absolutely key post-exercise, especially to the areas that you're focused on the most. So, someone like yourself might want to focus on your lumbar region and your lower back, and then your upper back and neck and shoulders, because you do have that kind of forward hunch after a long paddle.
And age. And the new hip I just got. So I don't have this background or this training, so I love like these simple details too. Plus our listeners are at every different level, but we want to make sure to share some high level too. When you're coaching, is it the sport specific coaching, is it mostly off water? Can we talk about equipment a little bit, both paddling equipment and or you've mentioned a little bit like what you might have if you were just going to set up you're new to sports fitness and off water?
In terms of the fitness aspect of it, I think one of the best things people can get are some adjustable dumbbells and resistance bands that come with handles on them. You can get them with different elasticity and different tension, so you can go from like a 2-pound tension to a 20-pound tension. And obviously as you get stronger and you get more adept at using those things, you can increase your reps, you can increase the amount of resistance that you're using. And the thing with strength training, it's never straight up progress. It's very up and down. And one of the things that as a strength coach, and I have to be mindful of this too, is you can't go 100% all the time. You want to have a specific goal in mind, work towards that goal, program towards that goal. But then when you reach that, you kind of plateau a little bit and you want to maybe take a step backwards, give the body some recovery time. Then if you start a new or different regimen, your body's not going to be adapted to that. So that's where all the progress comes, is from the body's adaptation to the stressors that you're putting on it. So if you slightly change, let's say you do one program for 8 weeks, you do 2 weeks of maybe some active rest and some maintenance, and then you start another 6-week program, but slightly different in terms of either more resistance, different exercises, then the body will at least continue to adapt, and you'll keep making at least partial gains in your strength and your endurance and those things. In terms of on the water, I think the best thing you can do is go to, a local surf shop or outdoor shop with somebody who knows what they're talking about. I know you can go to like Dick's Sporting Goods and buy a paddle board, but they may not be able to put you in the proper paddle board for what you want to do. Whereas if you go, let's say Cinnamon Rainbows or Full Moon paddle board, you have people who are, very well versed in not only what's the best out there in terms of what you want to do. And I think any good trainer, coach, or even salesperson will ask you, what is it you want? Not what they want to put you into, it's what you want to grow into. And so if someone comes in and they're super, super stoked and you can't wait to get into this, you may put them in a slightly higher end board because they're going to grow into it. If it's somebody who's going to go out every third weekend just for the summer, then, maybe something more basic. But, don't be afraid to do your research. Don't be afraid to ask questions. And one of the things that, and I know Laird Hamilton says this all the time, one of the best ways to learn is to be a beginner. And don't be afraid to be a beginner, because that's where all the growth is. And let's face it, it's fun most of the time.
It is fun. Of course, I'm a teacher by trade also. So teachers love learning. And so we always love the new. Speaking of the new, have you tried foiling or winging or any of some of the newest developments in the direction?
I tried winging a couple of times and I enjoyed it. My background in windsurfing helped with that. Foiling I have not tried yet. That is definitely on the list of, oh wait, there's more expensive stuff I want to buy.
Yeah.
That's definitely next on the list for sure.
Yeah.
But you just, again, whatever you're getting into, just make sure that you do your homework. And going to a surf shop versus maybe buying it on Amazon would probably be that. So.
Yeah, we've had some conversations. I think that's one of the biggest concerns about the pandemic is so much was bought online without any guidance about safety, about technique, about what they're getting their hands on. So absolutely small specialty retail. We love you. And that's where you're going to find that person. You've just talked about it, with the knowledge, with connections too. So for a lot of us, and you mentioned it already, community and people, and that's part of, for a lot of people, the outdoors or the balance of it, because many of us love the solitude and peace sometimes you have on the water too. But also I race partly because I love my paddle community, and it's a chance to go see my friends on weekends.
And that's it. And that's, to me, that is the probably the most rewarding aspect of me getting into this. I have met probably my best friends in the last 11 years because I was doing this and because I got into it. And there's just something about that surf community, that sup community, you know, when we, yeah, you know, people laugh when we flash our shakas, but it's a thing, and it's an identity, and it's a, you know, it is a family, an extended family. Like I said, we've got a shout out to the Genis Beach Surf Club. We, you know, we get together quite a bit, and not only at the break, but, you know, we have a great time in between sessions. We spend time with each other, and it really is family. And it's just, there's nothing better than, you know, coming in off the water after a great couple of sessions and then rehashing it.
Yeah, absolutely. So you've been at it for quite a while, 10 plus years, 11.
Yeah.
Is there anything you would, looking back, what you know now, change about what you got, how you got started, or what you did at the beginning?
You know, it was so funny. I was talking to my girlfriend Tammy about this, and you know, it's kind of neat, the accidental way that I got into this. So I definitely would not change my origins, because it was, you know, it's Bob Ross said, it's a beautiful accident. But I think in retrospect, I tend to jump headlong into things that I love, thinking, oh, I got this. And maybe, you know, maybe a lesson, maybe a little guidance would have made my my progression a little smoother. Both with flat water paddling and with sup surfing. Sup surfing, like, I'm going to do this, and I would just go out and basically get worked all the time. And you know, again, my Genis Beach Surf Club friends were very patient, very kind, and gave me tips on, you know, both supping and surfing that translated. So I was very fortunate. But I again would encourage anyone getting into this, take the time to work with somebody who knows what they're doing, and it'll just be that much more enjoyable.
Absolutely great advice. Agreed. And I think I love that you are a gung-ho personality that does jump in. But yes, I think we all, probably in other facets of life too, could use that. Oh, maybe I should have asked for a little directions, or whatever it is, a little help. So what's next for you? You're writing your column about fitness.
Yeah.
Are you in your second quarter or semester at high school? Probably looking towards summer as it gets a little warmer, and excited.
Yeah, I mean, any teacher that tells you they're not looking towards summer in September may be exaggerating slightly. You know, the great thing is, though, yeah, I love summer and I love being out, but because we do this stuff year round, you know, seasons are interchangeable almost. What's next for me? My gosh. I definitely wanted to get into whitewater supping and foiling. I'm super excited about doing more work with Cinnamon Rainbows. In fact, we started doing a seniors camp this summer. So yeah, that was really a lot of fun. Doing more sup tours. Tammy and I want to go out to Banff, British Columbia, do some hiking out there, because we've done in New Hampshire, they have the 48 4,000 footers, which is, you know, something you do those, and you know, hiking out here is no joke. It's pretty intense. So we did that. So now we're looking at expanding. We were out in Colorado this summer and absolutely fell in love with it out there. It's beautiful. So we want to spend some time doing some hiking out there, and just, you know, super excited about what's next, you know, and you know, I love writing, and I just love talking about this, and I just get super excited whether I'm doing a surf lesson or a sup tour. It's just that natural stoke just comes out. And again, I've had so many amazing people that have really fostered that. You know, Dave Cropper, number one. I've met Chuck Patterson a few times, who's just an amazing guy. Met Garrett McNamara at an open water race, and you know, you watch guys like that, and you see how they do it with their professionalism and their just pure stoke, and that is so contagious. It really is. And then the amazing Evelyn, who's encouraged my writing and has been just so good to me. She is just the queen of stoke, and is really been wonderful enough to give me a forum to discuss, you know, passions of mine. Yeah. So
absolutely fantastic. Hey, we didn't talk about tours. We talked a little bit about your state, but how do you usually structure those? Is it groups? Is it just somebody contacts you through your website? Or if somebody wanted a tour and they were in New Hampshire?
tours, Those are done through Cinnamon Rainbows, and those are just a local thing. It's not like we're going to go to, Martha's Vineyard or, I don't know, Baja. So although that would be something that would be really fun to do, those are things that we do right locally from the shop and go out. Although you do
Wonderful.
really great.
Usually ocean tours or inland waters or both?
Yeah, because we want to, we want to make sure that, people are at the ocean, that they take every advantage of it.
Very cool. Well, thank you for sharing all about what you do, where you live, tons of great tips about on and off the water. Thank you so much, Jeffrey. Great to meet you. Hope I get to meet you in person sometime.
That
So
would
let us
be
know if
great.
you're traveling this way. Have you done Mount Whitney? That's
Yeah,
the peaks.
a guy that Tammy and I ended up doing some hiking with, went out and did Whitney and just raved about it. So, and if I can give a couple of quick shout outs, I want to obviously say hi to my son Brendan, who is also picked up sup surfing, and my girlfriend Tammy, who is a nurse and just an amazing person and super supportive of everything that I do, and my surfing and sup buddies. It's a great family, it's a great community, and go New Hampshire.
Yay. Thank you. We did learn a lot about New Hampshire from you, Jeffrey. And thanks again. Be well. Take care of yourself. And again, hope to meet you. Supconnect, thank you so much for letting me do these interviews every Thursday. Remember that while it was live, it also is being recorded. It immediately shows up on IGTV. So you can tell your friends if they missed it. There's some great stuff. And also it will end up in YouTube within the day or two, both Supconnects and mine, KT Outside, and you can take it too and do something with it.
All right. So much.
Right.
Thanks.
Thanks so much. Great to meet you, and thank you for your time. Enjoyed it.
Okay.